Good afternoon, morning, evening or night, ladies and gents. My name is Alex. I'm joined here by Jim.
Howdy.
And Watto.
I am the Waterman.
And we're here to answer one question for you today. And that is Star Wars Episode 1, The Phantom Menace as bad as they say? Let's just start this off by going around one by one. Okay? I'm going to start with James and go around to me. Asking, James, is The Phantom Menace as bad as they say?
No.
Jim, is The Phantom Menace as bad as they say?
Yes, but no, a little bit.
And I'm kind of there with you. My heart says no. My heart says no, but my brain says yes.
Yeah.
That's the best way I can put it. So, where to begin with this one? What do you reckon?
There's a lot to take in with this movie. There's a lot
to unpack. What we tend to do on these is go sort of character by character.
Okay, so how about we start with Newt Gunray? What is your read on Newt, James?
Who?
Okay, let's go more to someone you're definitely going to know. Watto?
Should we lay out sort of the characteristics of Watto for the viewer that might not know the character quite as intimately as, say, you might?
So you're saying we're going to skip past his kind of war time stuff?
No, I'm saying that's exactly what we should get into. Sort of break down the character so people understand it. No, that is Phantom Menace. So this character is displayed to you. He's the
Jewish stereotype.
He owns slaves and
slave owner, gambling addict.
Yeah, he's also established and he loves money.
Only money.
Adores it.
He mind tricks won't work on him. Only money. So those are his sort of characteristics, but he ties into the story through being he's a slave owner and he owns Anakin. But I think there's more to this character than meets the eye.
Yeah, just purely in his visual design, you know, missing that tusk. He's got the equivalent of a limp bit in the way he flies. You know, he flies with a limp, whatever that means.
There's a lot of grotesque character designs in this movie, but I think his is probably the worst.
We're beating around the bush here, but the Watto thing is an example, as is Jar Jar, of one of the widely criticized aspects of the movie, that being the kind of stereotype nature of some of the voices and characters, things that just make you raise your eyebrow a little bit and go, what was your thinking there, George?
My lord, is that legal?
Like, it's not like he was trying to sneak a fast one past us. It's like, these are just caricatures and stereotypes, and they're really quite of ill will.
Yeah, and I'm at a point where I'm so deep with this movie where I take it for what it is, you know? I don't even read into that side of it. I'm just like, this is Newt Gunray at this point, you know? This is just Newt. This is Watto. They're real. They might as well be real to me, you know? They exist.
As far as you're concerned.
As far as I'm concerned,
Newt
they are
Gunray
real.
And Watto
are real.
They exist right now.
They are as real as you are to me right now. Okay. The fuck point was I trying to make? This movie is core to me in ways that I find hard to explain. The deep-rooted nature and levels of humor that I derive from this movie are sickening, honestly.
Yeah, it is extremely funny a lot of the time, making it definitely not the worst Star Wars movie.
Yeah,
for the record.
Yeah,
but on top of that humor being in it, there is some really awesome stuff in there as well.
That's the thing. The best way I can think of to summarize this movie is that it is a dad making a Star Wars movie. And dads, they got good ideas, you know?
Yeah.
They got some good ideas. But this is no dad George Lucas before he was a dad, when he was in his prime, early filmmaker, struggling filmmaker, trying to get a New Hope made. There's passion in there. There's a sense of creativity where he's assigning all the things he loves and kind of putting it in a new package for people to digest. and then he did it again with Empire, and then he did it again with Jedi.
Sort of.
And then he vanishes. Has a kid, he becomes a dad. And then eventually, when the kids have grown up a bit, now he's got time to make his new movie. Let's go back to Star Wars. But he's forgotten Star Wars. He doesn't know Star Wars. Wait, he kind of knows Star Wars, but his life has changed, his perspective has changed in such a way where he doesn't truly know Star Wars anymore.
Yeah, he can't know Star Wars anymore.
But the saddest part is, all the ideas in this movie, if kind of reorganized, repackaged, focused on more, filtered through, just brainstormed a bit more, focused down more, get another writer in there, maybe get another director to direct the movie. There's a lot about the ideas behind The Phantom Menace that I really like. Points in which, from a top level sense, kind of work for me. But the way they are enacted and the way we see it unfold before our eyes is so incredibly inept that even I cannot come up with excuses to justify some of the stuff that goes on in the movie, which is why I cannot say with much confidence that it is that much better than they say.
Yeah, I don't think it is much better than they say.
And when I reference that, I mean there's been a bit of a swell and uprising around the prequels in general. There seems to be that, basically people our generation who grew up with them as kids are getting older now, and they're like our Star Wars movies, basically. And they always will be to, I think, all of us in some way.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, the part of my mind that, is looking for a certain level of quality or consistency, even if it was more baby, more kiddie. Even if it was more consistently baby and kiddie, like the Clone Wars is or whatever.
Yeah.
At least there's something consistent you can expect and dig into there. You know what you're getting into.
Mm-hmm.
But this movie's juggling a story about a political figure using a proxy war in order to manipulate power structures, at the same time as the Jar Jar Binks stepping in poop.
Gets his tongue stung.
Yeah, everyone knows Jar Jar Binks. And you just can't tell what he's saying half the time.
Going through the planet core? Bad bombing. Any help here would be hot.
Mm-hmm.
And you noted as we're watching it, the crucial points of
exposition
and story
given through Jar Jar, a character that is incredibly hard to understand.
A character which I can see in some parallel universe working somehow.
Really?
The only way I can envision it happening is he can't be fully CG because it's aged so badly.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't work. He needs to be redesigned and he needs to be toned down literally 90%.
Yeah.
Don't do that again.
No, that's something about another thing that people criticize this movie for. Perfectly justified criticism. The CGI is awful.
That I kind of disagree with.
The visual effects.
Yeah. Because
there's lots of good ones, but the CGI is bad now. The way they animate everything is like a cartoon and not like real life things.
No, I'm gonna disagree because there's times when they use the CG in a good way, so you don't notice it's shit.
Like when?
The whole pod racing scene.
I think the visual effects are surprisingly good. I think the problem is the creative drive doesn't make sense. The ideas are clashing. George Lucas is envisioning this super cartoony, stupid world with these flying bug things like Watto, and there's really no way to make that look
real.
I can't think of a single example of a film with creatures that ridiculous and it kind of coming across in a way that
no, that is a good point.
Sells it, but
because some of the CGI in the movie is actually really good, contradicting what I just said. Like the whole underwater sequence.
The underwater sequence is surprisingly good. James mentioned the pod race, which just in terms of visual effects and visuals is crazy good.
Just like visual storytelling. It's a fun ride.
Yeah,
actually.
much is the same with the other prequels, but these movies are the best when people aren't talking and it's just action.
Yeah.
It's like it's the only time you see like the true like Star Wars that you kind of expect to see is in the action scenes, because it's like it's got some life, some vibrancy, some movement. But yeah, the car stuff, the way that bleeds into the pod race thing, and like
Yeah. Well, whenever George Lucas directs stuff moving fast, it tends to work. Like even like it makes sense why the trench run in A New Hope is so good. You know, because it's like things moving down a track.
Yeah, he
fast.
loves vehicles.
You can tell he actually kind of understands that as well.
Mm-hmm.
Like he gets
like
it.
how to tell a story visually instead of just have like a fucking room of characters
Yeah.
sitting and then flipping the camera between them.
As someone who grew up, no Star Wars. I never knew anything about Stars, but I knew the pod racing game. That is such an untapped idea, and it's so good in the actual movie. The whole sound design
Yeah.
of it, it's so there's so much there.
Mm-hmm. I think it doesn't work as a whole in the movie.
No, because you
it's
you don't care about any of the characters involved in the scene.
No, but it's presented in such an exciting way.
Just if someone just showed that segment of that movie and you hadn't seen the rest, you'd think,
Wow, this Star Wars movie might be alright. I don't know
Yeah,
about
I
this
kinda
twin-headed
wanted to-
guy and his
Yeah,
commentary, but
yeah.
the rest of it's pretty cool. And that's the thing with the movie. It's like you have to pick out. It's like
Yeah.
a huge pile of shit, and you're picking out the like golden nuggets that have been filtered through.
Yeah.
It's like it's a nice steak, but like 75% of it's fat.
Mhm.
So you need to cut it down and
Yeah.
you get like this
Yeah.
puny fucking shitty
But
steak.
you can't cut it in a way that gets you any of the meat, so you're
Yeah.
basically just eating fat.
Mm.
There's that beautiful scene from the like behind the scenes documentary that's on the DVD where they're like watching it for the first time, and they're
it's
talking.
it's iconic. at
Yeah,
this
it's
point.
iconic. And they're talking about how there's just no way to re-edit the movie because things like Jar Jar are so like intertwined. So it's not it's not a case of, oh, Jar Jar doesn't work, let's just edit him out. No, we've committed too much time and too much like real estate to this idea that they fucked it.
I can't even think of a way where if they removed Jar Jar or replaced him, it could work.
Yeah,
Like,
but
what can they
he's
replace
so
him with?
vital to the story.
Yeah.
They like the whole movie's broken on
Yeah.
that.
But do you think taking Jar Jar out, the movie would be much more bearable? Because I have a
Yes.
feeling the movie would be, and
I
and it
think-
would improve things so much.
What? No, I wouldn't even say that. It wouldn't be getting rid of Jar Jar. It'd just be changed to the voice, and you'd probably be fine. Like not so high pitched and
So just tone him down a hell of a lot.
tone him down. Keep everything the same.
Even
but
with
tone
the
him
like,
down.
people would be more forgiving if it was like bad CG and looked bad now, but he was cool in some way,
Yeah,
or likable in some way.
yeah.
But it was just way too much, way too far.
Mm.
And you've basically already implied about the Plinkett review. How much damage did that video do to this movie's reputation? And will it ever recover from it? Because that video is like so good
Yeah.
that it like crushes the film.
You
And,
just
like,
watch scenes from it and you can't not hear Mr. Plinkett's voice while it's playing, and
because
and
it was
like-
so true. Like, he nailed it so
Yeah,
hard with like what was wrong with the movie. One side you got this political drama, on the other side you have this like literal, not just a kid's cartoon, but like a fucking baby's cartoon.
Yeah,
And they're on the opposite ends of each other, and it just doesn't make any sense.
it is just what you said. Like it's a movie made by a guy, like a dad. He doesn't get what he did anymore.
Yeah, or it's like he gets what it is, but it's so grey and muddy that it's not the same thing that it once was.
Yeah.
It's like a filtered, dadded version of something.
But it also sort of feels like, well, especially with this one, I can't really say the same for the other two, but it does have that Star Wars look and feel.
Yeah,
During,
I think
like,
about
space
that a
action
lot.
scenes and on Tatooine.
Because this came out in '99, and there was a bit of a gap before the second one, or the fifth one. But I do have it like a distinct separation where
Yeah.
it is way more CG-ish in 2 and 3 to me.
Yeah,
there's a lot more
definitely.
practical stuff in the movie. I think just in general, a lot of it, Jar Jar aside, looks better than a fair amount of stuff in especially 2.
Yeah,
I'd have
two-
to be
two
more
is the
picky with
worst.
3.
Prequel, for the record.
But do you guys remember the marketing blitz that led up to this?
Mm-hmm.
Because I don't think I've ever experienced anything quite like it since.
be
Maybe I
fair,
was just the perfect age.
I would have been 3 at the time. I did not remember any of it.
But
It's-
there was something about the Phantom Menace, just the pure amount of money they put into that marketing thing, just the toys and the vending machines and just the iconography was everywhere. It was so embedded into like children's minds
Yeah,
at that
well-
age that you couldn't avoid it.
In my head, that's just all 3 of the prequels.
Yeah.
It's
So,
Phantom Menace for me in particular. I remember
Really?
like all the like, and this is probably just because of my age, but like the back of the cereal boxes and
Yeah.
I remember that vending
sure.
machine. Dude. There's vending machines everywhere, and the adverts and the posters and shit. Like it just had such a striking like just campaign. I don't know how much money they spent on that, but it clearly
Yeah, well,
worked.
I don't know if it's still the case, but Star Wars was like the biggest IP of all time, wasn't it?
Yeah, but like the way they toyed everything, and like so before the movie
Yeah.
was even out, like you were getting these like in cereal like packets, like a Queen Amidala toy. And so no one
Right.
even knew what that character was, but they just assumed they were cool because it was Star Wars.
Yeah.
Yeah. This film is memed so hard. Some of the best memes of some of the best Star Wars memes actually come from the Phantom Menace.
Yeah. It's quite quotable.
It's very
Nah.
quotable.
I'm in disagreement. If I think of Star Wars memes, it's the third one. The first one, I don't.
We're not denying the
I've
meme
seen-
shit from that movie.
No,
but
but there's the majority of Star Wars memes I don't think come from this one.
I didn't say that. There are just some good ones in here.
You just said the good ones come.
Some of the best
Fuck.
ones, like the Palpatine.
Yeah, thick Palpatine.
Yeah, thick Palpatine is
Palpatine,
incredible.
which is-
That's a masterful meme.
The God, what does he say?
A surprise to be sure, but a welcome one.
Yeah, surprised to be sure, but welcome
I can't.
one.
I just
Brilliant.
think of the second and third themes as so much more memeable. This isn't.
Mostly because of Obi-Wan. Hello there.
Yeah. Yeah, that's all you can really take from the second and third one.
I have the high ground.
But yeah, the humor side cannot be underplayed and understated. There's just this beautiful thing to me about the movie where I totally see what he's going for with a lot of it.
Yeah, and
Like
and
there-
with every rewatch, because this movie, in my opinion, is incredibly rewatchable. And with every rewatch, you sort of it starts to sort of convince you that like you
Well,
get
yeah,
it
no.
more and more what he
We
meant.
just watched the movie now, and we were talking about maybe we just shouldn't watch it because we're so familiar with it.
Mm.
But I'm so glad we did, because if I didn't watch it just now, I probably would have come on here and been like, "Nah, it's way better than people say." Because it's
Really?
been months and months, and I was like,
Really?
I've been thinking about it. I'm reading the wiki, reading the Watto
Mhm.
lore, and I'm like convincing myself in my head that this is actually kind of cool. Which is like, you can't blame Star Wars fans for doing. That's the cool stuff about
yeah,
the
yeah.
world. It's so creative, so silly, so many monsters and aliens and stuff. It captures your imagination, and that's what's fun about it, and that's what everyone shares in with the jokes and memes.
Mhm.
Like, but yeah, as I was saying, you do see what he's going for from time to time.
Yeah,
Like
and-
this idea of on Naboo, these like two shared kind of civilizations that
Yeah.
are occupying the
Superpowers.
same space, but they're
Yeah.
of opposite sides, and the story is like changing throughout
yeah,
the conflict and learning something while the heroes are there and they're involved, and that's like just a small part of it.
you see, the trouble with that is that kind of is the only arc in the whole film. Like, what character has changed? Like,
The only point of the movie is Palpatine's move. And Qui-Gon's decision to like commit to his ideas, because it's kind of highlighting the point of where the Star Wars saga kind of begins, the beginning of the end, as it were.
Yeah.
Where Qui-Gon's like convinced that Anakin's like going to be the one, and everyone's like, no, he's not the one, but he convinces like Obi-Wan to train him, and that winds up being it's basically Qui-Gon's fault that
everything happens.
Yeah, that everything happens, but it also kind of needed to happen. Which is like, I love the idea of Qui-Gon. I think he's such a cool idea. It's like great
and
Jedi.
I think the overall plot of the prequels, including this movie, is cool.
Yeah,
It could have worked.
It's just like the ages of the characters are a bit wrong. The timeline's all fucked up. The order of events is kind of weird. The things they're showing and highlighting just don't make sense. Like the B-movie kind of serial aspect of it is there in that way, you know?
Yeah, for sure.
Where it is like these small little alien stories and harkening back to like kind of westerns and that kind of stuff.
I really like how this movie, like from the start, it's really sort of low stakes. Like this world is
like
sort of
bustling
at peace at the moment, but stuff is just starting to boil, and it's a cool idea. And how this small thing that happened triggers this.
Yeah, and that's what I kept saying when we were
stuff.
watching it. Was like, this is just too ambitious.
Mm-hmm.
It's too much to be trying to do in one movie.
Yeah, there's so much story in this that I didn't understand. Like, I watched this movie over and over and over when I was younger, and George Lucas himself has said that this movie is like meant for kids.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think I understood the movie until I watched it when I was like 20.
No, this is why I think the movie is as bad as they say.
Yeah.
When you're a kid, you like half the movie because you like the dumb shit,
Mm-hmm.
you know? And then when you're an adult, when you finally understand it, you're like, oh, that's kind of cool. But now I hate all the old shit, which is like dumb and for babies. So what am I supposed to think about this movie?
Yeah, it makes the movie for nobody.
Yeah, which is a crime. Whereas if it just committed to one of them, then at least one audience would be thrilled with it.
Yeah.
How about we round off by going through the IMDb scores, Metacritic, and Rotten Tomatoes, and see what we think, if we think it's fair or not.
I'm down.
Let's start with IMDb. This has a 6.5 from 710,000 users, so quite a few. And to me, that's quite generous, I think.
Yeah, I think that's
got the Star Wars bump for sure.
No, because there's two different levels of good films, and there's two different levels of giving something a high review. This movie's good for being unbelievably shit and unbelievably kind of good in what it tries.
It's so embedded into the like culture, like film culture.
Yeah, I think just because it's a shit film that's fun to watch doesn't mean you should let it go for being a shit film.
No, but we're not letting it go. We're just saying it's enjoyable. It's an enjoyment. You can't let someone get away with being enjoyable.
I see what you're saying, though, about everyone uses the
Mm.
rating. I mean, whatever. You can say the same about all of them. How about this one, then, for Metacritic? This is 36 critics coming together, and they decided on... Well, Metacritic decided on a 51 on there.
Critically, from a movie point of view, yeah, that's fair.
Don't you think... Yeah, that kind of makes sense with how we just ended that, saying how it kind of is 50% for...
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. But again, depending on how you view the scale.
Mm-hmm. The user score, by the way, on Metacritic is 6.1, so a whole point higher.
I'm surprised that's lower than the IMDb one, though.
It is from far fewer ratings, though.
Right.
So. And finally, the Rotten Tomatoes, 53% from 230 reviews. So it's all kind of around the same.
Yeah.
The audience score on there is a 59% from well over 1 million. So it does seem to kind of average out 5, 6 kind of.
Yeah, 5.5.
Which is, it's not the worst read.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Like we
there's
said,
some logic to it.
On a purely enjoyment scale, I would rate this movie like a 6 or a 7. On a purely critical scale, it would be
I would
4 or
rate
5.
the director's commentary 10 out of 10. That is where the true entertainment lies. As like an adult Star Wars fan who grew up with the prequels, if you haven't done that and you watched them as a kid and like you haven't seen them, that's a good way of doing it, because it gives you so much insight into his thought process, which makes you understand so much more about the movies and dislike them more, but also dislike them for a reason, you know? But you're like, okay, I understand why he made that reasoning, but come on, George, this makes no sense when you're putting this on a commentary track and you're saying this out loud.
Mm-hmm.
So that's my little suggestion.
Yeah, I still need to watch that.
But yeah, I mean, the prequels, though, especially something about the Phantom Menace to me, that's the one, which is like, I don't really give a shit about the other two in the same way I care about the Phantom. Something about the Phantom Menace.
I think it's the closest to being a good movie, yet, like, it's got the most heinous shit in it. Well, not the most, because Yoda jumping around and the majority of the shit in this. The second one's worse. Overall.
Yeah, I think we can all agree on that.
But yeah, it just makes it more disappointing that it had those golden nuggets, you know? It's a piece of shit with golden nuggets. The other two are just pieces of shit.
Right.
No, I disagree with that though, even then. The third one has some golden nuggets.
I think most people agree Attack of the Clones is the weakest.
Yes.
But the debate is much more on Revenge and if it's good or not.
How many
I don't
times
like
have
it,
you actually seen it?
Revenge of the Sith?
No, Phantom Menace.
Phantom Menace.
I don't know. So many.
Replayability is a big thing. There's one thing I dislike about movies is replayability.
What, lack of it?
Yeah, there's no you can't replay any movie.
But the only problem I have with that, though, is that, and Jim pointed this out when we were watching it, is there is a middle chunk of the movie which is
fucking trash.
When does it kind of begin?
Well, it's just before and just after the pod race.
Right.
Those two segments of the movie suck.
Yeah, because they've got to grind down the movie to set up this pod race thing, basically. Just so it can happen.
DeLoreans.
Yeah.
And the whole fucking political
and
situation.
I do like the idea of like establishing and proving a hero through an event like that.
Yeah, I think that's cool.
Yeah, you're introduced. That's the first time we're seeing Anakin.
But he should have been like maybe late teens, like 18, 19, maybe even early 20s. Not a fucking 2-year-old.
No,
yeah,
you shouldn't have been that old. Because then it doesn't make sense. Like at all. Then you have to rewrite that whole thing of him being older. If it was
in George's mind, and I remember this from the commentary, the reason it goes wrong is because he's too old to start the training process, and if he was the right age, he would have been a fine Jedi.
But why is Luke fine?
Dude, this is the problem with Star Wars. The more you start breaking it down, the less any of it starts making sense, and I start switching off.
So it's all shit then.
In a way. I mean, it's all a B movie taking from, you know, tropes of like Japanese cinema and westerns, and I mean,
do you ever think
silliness to it?
Do you ever think the Phantom Menace is kind of like an anime?
No.
No. Any other notes on things that make the Phantom Menace as bad as they say? Do we kind of agree on the basic stuff that like Obi-Wan needed more time?
Yeah,
Darth
I think
Maul needed more
Obi-Wan
time.
should have
The
been
movie really needed a villain. Like a clear Darth Maul would have acted as a perfect, like, obvious villain, whereas Palpatine is the background villain, as he kind of always has been. But it needed something like that because there's like no one really to root against. The whole point is that Palpatine is like really sneakily. You don't even know he's the villain. If you were like a kid watching it, you would have no idea that he's the villain. But obviously Darth Maul is, and he just kind of gets taken out and gets no development and dies.
I kind of wish they focused more on Qui-Gon and Obi-Wan in the first half, because it would have gave more development to Obi for them to lead Anakin to the other two movies. It's just so...
Yeah.
They rushed it straight out of the box just to get Anakin in, and that fucks the movie in terms of every other character practically.
Well, I think Darth Maul shouldn't have been killed as well, because that's another problem with the whole trilogy. Because this movie fucked it up, the trilogy suffers. Like if there was an enemy that you could latch onto for the whole trilogy, like Darth Vader it was for the originals, you just don't have that. And Darth Sidious doesn't even get beaten. He's not a baddie. He gets beaten right at the end, not at the end of this trilogy.
Mhm.
So it's just super unsatisfying.
They
And that's
just
because this movie fucked it.
they jump between people too quickly. Because they could have had Darth Maul like being. They could have left that a cliffhanger though. So then you're right. Oh, did he die? They didn't even do that at all. Because then he.
Yeah,
can
they
come
could have
back in
done
a
like
second.
in A New Hope where, you know, Darth Vader's TIE fighter is knocked off. So he's kind of defeated,
yeah.
but he's out of the picture.
Or even Kylo Ren in
yeah.
episode 7.
That's
where
more
he
obviously like leading up to more shit though. Like if he
Yeah,
just
but
like
I
fell
think-
down the chute and was like gone or something, and then came back or whatever.
Yeah.
Because there needed to be like more. Because obviously Darth Maul killed Quan, and then Obi-Wan. If Darth Maul returns, it adds like this rivalry in the background
Yeah,
between
which they
creating.
put in Clone Wars. So.
Yeah, it's just I don't fucking
Yeah,
get
but
it.
I mean, even in that, it's like kind of an eye roll, like robot legs. Like you didn't think this through. It's just stupid. And when he falls down the hole and his top half smacks into the side of the fucking like silo, and then he tumbles
Yeah.
down, like he clearly was not meant to survive.
No. It's the most fucking poorly executed thing. There's really nothing to be said about how bad.
It's not good for starting a trilogy
No.
at all.
We haven't really mentioned the Padme angle. Queen Amidala. I like the aesthetic of Padme. This, with the Queen fucking. Well, I guess she's the Queen Amidala. Then you know what I mean. It's so fucking confusing because there's like a reveal
Yeah,
where they reveal that actually
the Queen is a fake
Keira
one.
Knightley is the Queen. Isn't
No,
the Queen?
yeah.
She's pretending to be the Queen. So she could. I still don't really get that part.
See, no,
what the
that would
point
make
of it is.
sense. It would really make sense because Natalie isn't actually legal. So in the world, if they said that she was underage and someone was acting on her
No,
behalf,
but
that would work.
but she's her character's like a young teenager, but she's already the Queen, so she's already a political figure.
Yeah,
I know, but they could have at least made that make sense. That whole fucking thing, if they changed that a little bit.
Well, like he plays with these like really adult ideas, you know, like the technicalities of war and the political side of it, and how it all comes together, and how you do have like body doubles and bodyguards and all these different things and different techniques.
It never sets up a situation and when that's needed. It's just there because it can be. If the whole Federation thing, and you know the blockade, happened 50 years before and it was still ongoing, that would make sense for her to have a bodyguard because there would be like a war going on.
Yeah.
But they don't. It's just there because it can be. And then when they kill off the Queen in the next one, it means nothing.
Yeah.
Doesn't it actually start on that? Like, boom. straight
Yeah,
up?
yeah. Yeah, it does.
And another thing I found kind of confusing was in the admittedly cool setting that they fight in at the end, the lightsaber fight with Darth Maul. It's striking imagery, but it is strange to me how that location is not established in any way before the fight is set there. You know, it's just, you know,
I mean,
a little thing.
like, I don't know if that's necessarily a problem because, like, Cloud City, the fight that goes down there, they don't establish this whole.
They kind of do. They establish Cloud City, though, don't they?
Yeah, I guess it being in the clouds sort of suggests that there are places you can fall off.
Yeah, I guess there's something about, like, they show this, like, beautiful palace, and then they show the inside, and it's, like, this weird, like...
Futuristic
energy,
fucking...
Huge, yeah.
beams.
There's, like, a clash there where there isn't really in
Hydron.
Cloud City, because it's also...
Is they just using the imagery from the first ones because people recognise that?
But, I mean, I'll disagree with that, because I think the imagery is actually really varied from the original
No,
trilogy.
just that bit, just that fight is the same as the Luke and Anakin fight. Where it's a massive
Oh,
drop.
right, I see
Just-
what you mean.
Yeah. They're using
There
that
are
imagery
some
'cause they
similarities,
can.
I guess, with that kind of thing.
But it's like that whole laser thing, when they're kind of blocked, could have been really creative use of it.
I quite like what they did with that in the fight when the red laser.
This is what I mean, though, also about them not establishing it, is it's like such an intricate setup with these like
Yeah,
laser
yeah.
doors and shit, and like you just have to kind of go with it, you know.
Yeah, it's poorly set up, but I think that
it's
bit
a cool
is cool.
idea. If they adjusted
Yeah, it's a really cool
it could have
idea.
been pretty sick.
Yeah, I
neat.
like all
No, I
that
think
stuff.
the way they show in like a slower way that Darth Maul's like
Yeah.
a dog, just trying to win the
Mhm.
fight, and Qui-Gon Jinn's like a smart dude, chill.
Yeah,
and-
you just will focus and meditate for a
yeah.
bit. Yeah. No, that's what I mean. Like, yeah, and that's another scene where there's no dialogue. It's just the music and the like audio
Yeah,
design and
The music we haven't talked about. Some of the best Star Wars soundtracks.
it's one of the
No,
best. It is
No,
one of the best.
I would go as far as to say is it's the sound of Star Wars. Anyone will know that sound because it's so much more relevant than the originals.
Especially if you played Lego Star Wars.
Yeah,
A lot of
that's
the
what
best songs from
really
Lego Star Wars are in
grinds it into my head.
Phantom Menace. Yeah.
And the Battlefront 2
Mhm.
specifically,
Yeah.
the original. But the music does some heavy lifting in this movie.
Mhm.
Like for scenes that you would normally just not give a shit about at all.
Yeah.
Like when that shit kicks in.
No,
No,
just
you're
the
engaged.
entire end scene would be so much worth without the music. Because
Yeah.
that's when it really starts popping off.
Mhm.
Without
No,
that music, it's
There's this great moment in the Lord of the Rings behind the scenes like making of thing where they're talking about Howard Shore's music, and they were like talking about when they were first hearing music from him, and they were like so pleased because from their perspective his music is literally 50% of the movie. So thinking about it with these like big like bombastic movies like this, yeah, the score with these like action scenes and all this
Mhm.
stuff, this visual stuff you're showing, the score is really important, and it does such a good job in all the Star Wars movies
Yeah.
of doing that. But that's like a given. It's like almost not fair, you know. Like
Mhm.
just make John Williams score the Jarcast and you got an Oscar-winning fucking flick right there. I guess the final kind of thing of note we haven't covered is the Jedi Council. How do we feel about that? Mace Windu and Yaddle.
it's bizarre. It's really bizarre because it's just like there's loads of characters we know nothing about, and they just look wacky as shit, and you just
Yeah,
notice
and
them.
like 2 of them speak ever.
Free. But then it's just like, because of Tupac possibly being Mace Windu, it's just like every scene I just imagine it of Tupac and it becomes fucking hilarious. I just can't.
Yeah.
It's so funny. It would have made, no, I'm going to straight up say, if it was Tupac, the movie would probably be a 7-8. Straight up.
Yeah, I can't decide how. There's that shot at the end where they're kind of going over all the Jedi and going down to Yoda. But in the middle, there's just a bunch of like random fucking Jedi you've never seen.
Yeah, it's the worst crime that this movie could have possibly committed, and so this movie goes back and shows you like what the Jedi used to be like, and they made it so fucking boring.
And lame.
It's
Not
so
cool.
it's so boring and lame.
Yeah.
I would say, just because Jedis are shit because of the prequels and this movie. Like, they're supposed to be elite, but they're like the most fucking useless, shitty group.
Yeah, and
just
it's
in
sort
Star
of
Wars.
something that I just don't like about the prequels at all, and that's the Jedi don't seem like this sort of peace-loving religion, like the
Mhm.
great morals of the
Yeah.
originals.
And I already know what
The-
the prequel fans are thinking, because I've heard the argument many times.
Right.
That from George's perspective, he was writing the Jedi Council to be too big for his britches, to be at a point where they are full of hubris.
Yeah, the trouble with that is that you're sort of making Yoda out to be an inept idiot.
Yeah,
Like I don't think he should have been in charge. I think he should have been some like elder that people don't really listen to, but he's the sort of smartest guy
The
in
old
the room.
school, the old school like OG.
Yeah, like he doesn't agree with the way the Jedi's run now.
yeah,
That would make that would keep his integrity for the
Yeah, I think the problem
originals.
is just the storytelling basically, and how they just don't really capture the emotions or mood or thoughts and feelings of characters very well.
Mhm.
Like, you don't really understand what Mace Windu and that are thinking beyond the obvious shit they're saying,
yeah.
you know, because they got to make Yoda into this like,
Beast.
well, he's really anti the whole thing, and it's just like a really hollow point of conflict, you know, where
Yeah.
they're just kind of like bickering, and it's like this doesn't feel right. Like just the way these characters are interacting doesn't feel like something I'd imagine
Yeah.
these characters doing.
Just thinking this is just point nothing to do. But if they use the idea that like Yoda is like the old wise one they don't listen to, if the other council accepted Anakin as to train him, and then Yoda disagreed, obviously, that would make sense to why he's like in the fucking jungles in the original. Because he separated from the group because Anakin went wrong, because he disagreed and they never listened in the first place.
Yeah.
Like, you could tie it all together.
Yeah, that would make more sense.
If this was gonna say something completely different, the most loved thing in the world, and this was the thing that followed it and was like the beginning, I would never watch any of it ever again, because they
Well,
ruined
and a lot of people
all of
feel
it.
that way and still do to this day.
Yeah.
But we just have a unique experience because these were the new Star Wars movies when we were kids, so we were,
Yeah.
of course, we were going to see them. So
Yeah, because this was really our introduction to Star Wars. These 3 movies.
And terribly enough, mine was Attack of the Clones. That's it. As a kid, I watched the shitty assassination plot, and I was just like, I'd rather go play COD. And I did.
somehow you managed to get a COD reference in there. Fucking hell.
But I've got a question.
Okay.
Is this better than the new trilogy?
That's...
Is that...
What do you mean? Do I think the prequels are better than the sequels
Yes.
as a trilogy?
Yes.
Yeah. I prefer the prequel trilogy. I think they're more interesting. You know?
I agree.
From having seen the majority but the last, but knowing all about the last of the sequels, it's far too serious for its own good, but it's actually kind
the
of
sequels
cringy.
is a whole thing in and
Yeah.
of itself,
Yeah.
which countless people have covered, you know. But
Prequels be good as fuck, and I really like them.
Final thoughts?
I do think it is as bad as they say, and it does deserve the reputation it has, but that doesn't stop me from loving it all the same.
I think no. I'd say the terrible reputation it has is reasons for everyone to go watch it, because it's that fun to watch and it's so shit. The bad reputation makes it
we are
better.
past the point of acceptance, though, is the thing. We've gone through the whole cycle.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
we're cool with it now, you know?
Yeah, it's like finding inner peace. I mean, you
Yeah,
could
yeah.
say this movie is a masterpiece for that.
It's
Like-
taught a generation of people about disappointment, about moving on.
And acceptance.
About
That This
acceptance.
is just what it is. And you
that's
might
okay.
hate it, but...
And that's
You
okay.
know?
And even if you don't, just make fun of it. And you know what? That's going to become the new thing.
Yeah.
Have
And-
fun with it.
Yeah, there's the entertainment.
Yeah, it's we come at this from a light-hearted approach, you know?
The sequels in 10 years will not be remembered. These still will. And that's
Yeah.
more important than anything.
Beautiful note to end on.
Just fucking beautiful.
Misa Wanawanga!